Welcome back to Camp Witch Doctor. Claudia's robot here, she did a great job, so everything worked pretty well the first time. But maybe if you're building this at home, you had some other issues. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to show you how to troubleshoot different issues that you might be having with your robot. So one really common issue that you might have is that as soon as you turn your robot on, one of the wheels is spinning slowly by itself. So go ahead and turn your transmitter and your robot on. Now let's put your transmitter here so we can see it on camera. When you turn your robot on, if one of the wheels was turning really slowly, it's usually an issue with something called the trim on your transmitter. So I'm going to show you on here. So this is the drive stick, right? If I go forward, it goes forward and backwards. You'll see right next to it, it has these little sliders that are pretty well centered right now. If you actually push one of those, you see how the wheels start turning by themselves? So when you first turn on your robot at home, you might have noticed that this was happening. All you have to do is take that little slider and make sure that both the sliders, the horizontal one and the vertical one, are centered. If you look at the lights on your speed controller, you see that they have solid lights right now. There's a red light and a green light on it. They're both solid. If you go forward on your transmitter, you see it's flashing green. And then when you go full speed, it's solid green. When you go backwards, it's the same thing. You do flashing red, and then usually it goes solid. Your robot might go solid if you're building at home. This one didn't, and that's probably just because the range is off a little bit, but it's still going really, really close to full speed, so that's not something to worry about. So those flashing lights can actually really help you. Let's say you're driving your robot around and one of your motor wires comes unplugged. The speed controllers are still going to do the correct lights because they're getting power from the receiver. So if you're doing this, you're going forward, and you see that your speed controller light changes to green, but your motor's not moving, the wheel's not moving rather, that means that the problem is probably between the speed controller and the motor. So it's probably unplugged. Easiest thing to fix. It's always what you want to see. Oh, it's just unplugged, plug it back in. If you're moving the stick and these lights aren't changing, then maybe you plugged in the PWM cables into the receiver wrong, and maybe you want to switch that around. So it's just seeing what the lights are doing on the speed controller is a really good way to isolate the problem and try to figure out what's going on. Now, if there's no lights on the speed controller at all, what do you think that issue might be?
It's not getting power?
Exactly. So in that case, maybe the battery's dead, or maybe it's just not plugged in. You'd be surprised how many times you go to test a robot and you think nothing's working, and then you realize your battery's dead. So a lot of times, if your robot is behaving in a weird way and you can't quite explain it and you can't figure it out, just putting your battery on a charger, recharging it, and putting it back in the robot could fix weird little issues like that you can't track down.